So the last masterclass that I completed was Aaron Sorkin teaching screenwriting. For those who don't know him, he's a multiple Academy Award nominee, and he also won an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay in 2011 for The Social Network. So I chose his masterclass because I have seen some of his movies that he wrote for, and I'm aware of the fast-paced dialogue in some of his screenplays. And also throughout this year, I became very interested in screenwriting. I want to write some own short films and maybe eventually like a longer film. But that's something that interests me very much now. And yeah, I decided this would be a great way to learn the basics and just learn what all it takes to write a movie. Alright, so here y'all can see the lesson plan, the layout of his masterclass. I'll just quickly scroll down here. We'll get into the details afterwards. But as you can tell, there are quite a lot of lessons. There's 35 in total, which compared to some of the other masterclasses on this platform is quite a lot. And again, here at the bottom, you have the resources. As usual, you have a class workbook, which you can download as a PDF. Yeah, as I've mentioned before, the workbooks are really great. And now here you also get probably the two best-known movies by Aaron Sorkin. You get the screenplay to A Few Good Men and also The Social Network, which, yeah, as I've mentioned before, won the Academy Award. And you also get, for the movie Steve Jobs, that he also wrote, a continuity and spotting list, which also plays a really important part in creating a movie. So I appreciate that very much, that you can download these screenplays. I just thought it was a bit sad. My expectations were that throughout the masterclass you would sit down with Aaron Sorkin and he would say, you know, open up page 110 on the screenplay of The Social Network and read through that scene and kind of work with the screenplay, but sadly you didn't really work with his screenplays throughout this masterclass. But still a really great thing to have. I'll definitely read through these screenplays eventually. Alright, so let's go back to the top. And we will now look through what all you will learn in his masterclass. As usual, you have the basics here at first, with a short introduction of the teacher. Aaron Sorkin then talks about intention and obstacle. This is really the key element of telling a story. He references and mentions these two elements throughout the entire masterclass, so this I thought was a very important lesson. He then starts talking about doing the research and how to prepare to write a movie. Then eventually, he talks about some important elements of screenwriting. And then here you see the group workshops. Aaron Sorkin in this masterclass sits down with, I believe, about 4 or 5 amateur screenwriters who aren't famous yet and are working or have written their screenplays. He sits down with the 5 of them and they quickly summarize their screenplay, maybe give an example of the opening scene or whatever. And he gives them feedback, and that was really cool too, to see how he thinks, what were good about those screenplays, what was bad, or not necessarily bad, but what just kind of need to be changed in order for it to make sense and that the audience can understand it. Then we move on to writing scenes, and we also have these scene case studies from The West Wing, the TV show that he wrote, 4 seasons, I believe. He wrote, you also have some more case study here on dialogue, also of one of his shows. And yeah, then he goes on talking about rewrites, how those are necessary. You can't just write a screenplay and the first draft is going to be the final product. There need to be multiple rewrites. You need to sit down with other people, because if you write something, it might make sense in your head, but the audience and other viewers might not understand that because they only see what is presented on the big screen. So those are two really helpful lessons. So then here with the next 8 parts, the West Wing writer's room. Aaron Sorkin simulates a writer's room where he and the 5 amateur screenwriters from before, they sit down together and write down ideas of how they could create the first episode of season 5 of the West Wing. Then here again at the end you have the group workshop for pitching your ideas and your screenplay. That's a very important part. It isn't enough just to write a great story. Sometimes you also need to pitch your idea that you have in your head in order to get the financing that you can write the screenplay and get the movie done. So this was another great masterclass. I was really able to learn a lot about cinema, or more specifically about screenwriting. Next up, I'm doing Spike Lee's masterclass on independent filmmaking, so I will see y'all for that review.